Waybill.
Waybill.
Wayfarer.
Wayfarer.
Waylay.
Waylay.
They used to waylay him as he came out of the factory.
Sorry, we got waylaid at the bar.
Way of life.
Way of life.
The tribe's traditional way of life is under threat. For Mark, travelling has become a way of life. Way out.
Way out.
Way out.
Way out.
He was in a dilemma and could see no way out. Pick up your mail on the way out.
The old type of passport is on its way out.
Wayside.
Wayside.
Way station.
Way station.
The refugee camps, however dreadful, were a way station to their dream.
Wayward.
Wayward.
A wayward teenager. Wazoo.
Wazoo.
WC.
WC.
We.
We.
Did you go into the supermarket? No, we didn't. Shall we stop for a coffee?
So we all travelled down to Brighton together. We declare our support for a government of national unity.
We Italians are proud of our history.
As we saw in Chapter 4, slavery was not the only cause of the Civil War. We live on a complex planet. We live on a complex planet. How are we feeling today, Mr. Robson?
Weak. Weak.
The illness left her feeling weak.
Poor light produces weak plants.
She's too weak to feed herself.
Nina was weak with hunger.
The animal was weak from loss of blood.
My grandfather had a weak heart.
A weak bridge.
The branch was too weak to support his weight.
A weak, indecisive man.
A weak and ineffective president.
The party was left weak and divided. The country is in a weak position economically.
The play is well acted, but the plot is weak.
A weak joke.
He managed a weak smile.
New Zealand was weak in defence.
She speaks quite fluently, but she's weak on grammar.
Be honest about your weak points.
The pound was weak against the dollar.
She's washing her hair. That sounds like a weak excuse. There are some weak points in her argument. The defence lawyer clearly knew that his case was weak. A weak radio signal.
He had only a weak light to see by.
Check your house for weak spots where a thief could enter.
His smile made her go weak at the knees. Dave caught me at a weak moment, and I lent him £10.
Goalkeeper Gowder proved to be the weakest link.
I'm sorry, she said, smiling weakly.
He sank down weakly beside her.
Weaken.
Weaken.
Over the last 2 years, the President's position has weakened. Changes in policy have weakened the power of the trade unions. The absence of this witness has weakened the case against the accused.
Julia was weakened by her long illness.
Such policies weaken the resolve of potential troublemakers.
When she begged him to let her stay, he weakened.
The earthquake in Cairo weakened a number of structures.
The pound has weakened against the dollar.
Weaker sex. Weaker sex.
Weak need.
Weak need.
Weakling.
Weakling.
Weak-minded.
Weak-minded.
A weak-minded man.
Weakness.
Weakness.
The legislation has a fundamental weakness.
The plan has strengths and weaknesses.
Weakness in the economy.
The growing weakness of local government. Muscular weakness.
Weakness in the right arm.
He couldn't explain his weakness in giving in to her demands.
I dared not cry or show any sign of weakness.
His weakness of character.
The weakness of the pound against the dollar.
I have a real weakness for fashionable clothes.
Weak-willed.
Weak-willed.
Wheel.
Wheel.
Wealth. Wealth.
The country's wealth comes from its oil.
The distribution of wealth.
The purpose of industry is to create wealth.
There is a wealth of information available about pregnancy and birth.
Wealthy.
Wealthy.
He left as a poor working-class boy and returned as a wealthy man.
The wealthy nations of the world. Wean.
Wean.
It's time to start weaning her onto solid foods.
Advice on how to wean yourself off nicotine.
I was weaned on a diet of Hollywood fantasy.
Weapon.
Weapon.
They all had sticks which they planned to use as weapons.
A new weapon in the fight against AIDS.
Right now, she felt the need of every weapon in her armory, including surprise.
Weaponry.
Weaponry.
Nuclear weaponry.
Weapons inspector. Weapons inspector. Weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction.
Where?
Where?
Susanna was wearing a black silk dress.
He wore glasses for reading.
Usually I wear black, grey or brown.
I'm wearing a scarlet dress to the party.
She wore her hair loose.
The cushions are starting to wear a little.
His jeans have worn thin at the knees.
You've worn a hole in your sock.
The tyres on the car seem to be wearing well.
He must have been around his mid-40s at least, but he'd worn well.
His face wore a welcoming smile.
The film begins well, but the joke wears thin after about 10 minutes.
The leather is starting to wear away at the seams.
Most of the grass had already been worn away by the spectators. My shoes have worn down at the heel.
Its teeth were worn down. It was clear he was being worn down by the rumours over his future.
The effects of the anaesthetic were starting to wear off.
It was funny for a while, but the novelty soon wore off.
I was feeling more tired as the night wore on.
My boots are beginning to wear out.
He travels so much, he actually wears out suitcases. All this shopping has worn us out.
Illness and death came suddenly. Over the years she had simply worn herself out. A new range of casual wear.
Bridal wear.
The children's wear department.
Replace your trainers when they start to show signs of wear.
Check the equipment for wear and tear. The dress stood up to the wear small children give their clothes.
You'll get years of wear out of that coat.
Where?
Wearer.
Wearer.
Bicycle helmets offer wearers protection against head injury.
Hearing aid wearers.
Wearing. Wearing.
Wearing.
Taking care of children can be wearing.
Wearisome.
Wearisome.
A wearisome task.
Weary.
Weary.
She found Rachel in the kitchen looking old and weary.
She sat down with a weary sigh. He was weary of the constant battle between them.
A long and weary march.
Amanda wouldn't admit how much the children wearied her.
As the day wore on, we wearied of the journey.
Weasel. Weasel.
He's now in court trying to weasel out of $25 million in debts. Weasel word.
Weasel word.
Weather.
Weather.
What's the weather like today?
The weather turned bitterly cold.
I always watch the weather after the news.
There are homeless people sleeping on the streets in all weathers.
You look a bit under the weather.
Keep a weather eye on your finances.
The company weathered the storm of objections to the scheme.
Northern Ireland weathered the recession better than any other region in the UK.
The brick has weathered to a lovely pinky brown.
Her face was weathered by the sun. Weather-beaten.
Weather-beaten.
His weather-beaten face.
Weatherboard.
Weatherboard.
Weathercaster.
Weathercaster.
Weathercock.
Weathercock.
Weathergirl.
Weathergirl.
Weatherman.
Weatherman.
Weatherproof.
Weatherproof.
Weathervane.
Weathervane. Weave. Weave.
Hand-woven scarves.
Only a few of the women still weave.
Traditional basket weaving.
She weaves a complicated plot of romance and intrigue.
The complex patterns which evolve when individuals' lives are woven together.
Cyclists weaving in and out of the traffic.
Laurie spotted them as they weaved their way through the tables.
A fine weave.
Weaver.
Weaver.
Web.
Web.
A guide to the best education-related sites on the web.
He watched a spider spinning its web.
A tangled web of relationships.
Web address.
Web address.
Webbed.
Webbed.
Webbing.
Webbing.
Web browser.
Web browser.
Webcam.
Webcam.
Webcast.
Webcast.
Various local news sites plan to webcast each of the mayoral debates.
Webcasting.
Webcasting.
Web chat. Web chat.
Web crawler.
Web crawler.
Web designer.
Web designer.
Web-footed.
Web-footed.
Webhead.
Webhead.
Webinar.
Webinar.
Webliography. Webliography.
Weblog.
Weblog.
Webmaster.
Webmaster.
Webology. Webology.
Webpage.
Webpage.
Webring.
Webring.
A classical music web ring.
Website.
Website.
For more information on weight loss and healthy eating, visit our website.
Responses will be posted on the website.
Website address.
Website address.
Web traffic.
Web traffic.
Web 2.0. Web 2.0.
Webzine.
Webzine.
Weed.
Weed.
We'd already eaten.
We'd rather stay.
Wed.
Wed.
Wedded.
Wedded.
A newly wedded couple.
My lawfully wedded wife.
On the whole, the working class is still wedded to the Labour Party.
Wedding.
Wedding.
She's busy planning her daughter's wedding. When is the wedding?
Wedding chapel.
Wedding chapel.
Wedding dress.
Wedding dress.
Wedding list. Wedding list. These days, when a couple announce their wedding day and send out an invitation, they also add a wedding list.
Wedding ring.
Wedding ring.
Wedding vows.
Wedding vows.
Wedge.
Wedge.
Garnish with lemon wedges. A wedge of cheese.
The phone was wedged under his chin.
Victoria wedged herself into the passenger seat.
Wedge heels.
Wedge heels.
Wedgie.
Wedgie.
He gave me a wedgie.
Wedlock.
Wedlock.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
The sale starts on Wednesday.
We can go Wednesday.
I saw Vicky on Wednesday evening. They left last Wednesday. Come down this Wednesday. I can let you know next Wednesday. Are you free on the 19th? Is that a Wednesday?
We.
We.
My wee boy is 3. She looked a wee bit confused.
The party continued into the wee small hours.
Do you want a wee?
Weed.
Weed.
The constant battle against weeds.
Nigel's such a weed, isn't he?
Cars clogged the roads like weeds.
The research will help governments to weed out ineffective aid schemes.
Weed killer.
Weed killer.
Weedy.
Weedy.
Week.
Week.
Letters were delivered twice a week only.
I can't see you this week.
See you next week.
I've been living here for 6 weeks.
If he hasn't phoned in a week, I'll phone him. It will cost you an estimated £10 per week to feed one dog. The training programme lasts 3 weeks.
A 35-hour week.
I don't see her during the week.
We're off to Spain Sunday week.
The Reeds are coming for dinner a week from Sunday. Keith's coming home 2 weeks on Saturday.
We do the same things week in, week out.